Hello, I'm Shuzai Nishi. Since the end of last month, the political situation in South Korea has been unsettling, and I've compiled my own thoughts based on what I've seen and heard locally and information from local media. There will probably be some information that hasn't been reported in Japan yet. On the night of December 3rd, President Yoon Suk Yeol declared emergency martial law, and in the early hours of the 4th, in order to nullify it, a majority of National Assembly members, including some from the ruling party, voted to nullify the emergency martial law in the National Assembly, which is dominated by the opposition party. President Yoon deployed special forces to try to prevent the members from entering the National Assembly. However, ordinary citizens who learned of the president's declaration of emergency martial law on television quickly rushed to the National Assembly building and, together with opposition party members, obstructed the soldiers' actions, and martial law was lifted by morning. Currently, South Korea is peaceful, and there is no justifiable reason to declare emergency martial law. Under martial law, freedom of speech is restricted, and forced searches and arrests of opposition lawmakers, media personnel, and ordinary citizens without warrants become commonplace, making it easier for the military to seize dictatorial power. Moreover, this is done in the name of national security. In fact, both the 1961 coup by Park Chung-hee and the 1979 coup Chun Doo-hwan, which took place less than 2 months after President Park's assassination, took advantage of this nature of martial law. Therefore, it can be said that the swift and bold action of citizens and opposition lawmakers was necessary to protect Korean democracy. Since the 4th, the largest opposition party, the Democratic Party of Korea, has intensified its pursuit of President Yoon and Defense Minister Kim Young-hyun, claiming that the unjust declaration of emergency martial law and the deployment of the military amount to a crime of treason. Ordinary citizens, university students, and the media also agree with the opposition's claims, and no voices defending President Yoon have been heard anywhere. In the first place, the public has been criticizing President Yoon for a long time, and demonstrations calling for his resignation have been ongoing for months. The reasons for this include the First Lady's repeated scandals and her interference in prosecutorial personnel affairs to cover them up, but the declaration of emergency martial law, reminiscent of the days of military dictatorship, has only added fuel to the fire. At 5 p.m. the 7th, the National Assembly voted on a motion to start an investigation into the First Lady and impeach the president, but neither passed due to a lack of votes in favor of the former, and the latter due to the majority of the ruling party's People Power Party lawmakers abstaining. The dissatisfaction of ordinary citizens has reached its limit. Despite the freezing cold that day, a large number of citizens gathered in front of the National Assembly building and continued to demonstrate until late into the night, expecting the ruling party lawmakers to abstain and trying to put pressure on them. Students from famous universities such as Seoul National University, Yonsei University, and Korea University also participated. The younger generation also participated in the demonstrations in large numbers. Kim had disappeared after announcing his resignation, but Korean media reports that he went to the prosecutor's office himself the 8th, and is currently being held in a detention center. The former defense minister also revealed some shocking facts about the Yoon administration's coup plot. The original plan was to launch a preemptive attack on North Korea on November 30th, justifying emergency martial law by saying that the country was at war. However, this did not come to fruition because military leaders refused to accept the order to launch a preemptive attack. Considering the fact that North Korea possesses nuclear weapons and has recently formed a strategic partnership with Russia, this preemptive attack plan could be the beginning of South Korea's path to devastation and loss of sovereignty as a tool in a proxy war, just like Ukraine's case. The military leaders who refused should be considered rational in their decision. Some reports have also suggested that President Yoon should be arrested immediately. Thanks to revelations from people involved, we now know quite a bit about the specifics of plans to impose martial law, control the media, arrest opposition lawmakers, and ban opposition political activities. Even a list of those scheduled for arrest was published. The opposition claims that there was not just one coup plot, but that there may be a second one. Given all of the above, it is not surprising that many South Koreans not only do not support the Yoon administration, but are calling for his resignation.